Homosexuals already face challenges living in our society at large. So it is accurate to assume that additional challenges and barriers placed on homosexuals at school can have an exponentially detrimental effect on this group of students, making the problem of heterosexism in our nation's schools a topic of the utmost importance. Our nation's schools have an obligation to provide a safe atmosphere for all students. What's more, schools must work vigorously to identify existing barriers to students' academic success, to develop practices that address these barriers and attempt to alleviate them. The issue with heterosexism is not only that it is a barrier to learning itself, but that it effectively feeds other social problems that are barriers to students' academic success. Friend uses evidence in his article to connect truancy, dropout rates, violence, and even suicide to heterosexism that exists in our nation's schools. In my opinion, it should go without saying that if heterosexism is dealt with properly, students will not only feel safer and more accepted at school, but they will be more academically successful, which is the ultimate goal of any educational institution. As a social studies teacher, I was intrigued by how Friend references Dennis and Harlow on page 233, citing how they explain, if the purpose of schooling is training in citizenship, which is defined as habits of open-mindedness and critical inquiry when prejudice and discrimination are encouraged, or at least not discouraged in schools, poor lessons in citizenship result. Schools are the cornerstone from which citizenship is cultivated. If prejudice and discrimination are allowed within our school systems, it sends a message of tacit approval to future citizens of our nation, future adult citizens of our nation, that will circumvent any future efforts to improve upon these social problems. Whether teachers and school administrators like it or not, it is up to them to be vigilant in this fight against bigotry in our nation's schools. The good news is that many school personnel have taken up this fight in decades since this article was published. Helping make this change on behalf of school personnel possible is, in part, the progressive nature of our collective society in recent years. Much has changed since the 1980s. Homosexual and transgender issues are far more understood by society today, a result of increased societal awareness due largely in part to the influence of media and pop culture. At the same time, our nation's laws have become more inclusive in allowing homosexual couples to enter into marriage. These advancements have allowed for a more open dialogue about sexuality and equality, thus making it a little less difficult for homosexuals to openly coexist with heterosexuals in society. I am not saying that there is no longer a problem with heterosexism in modern society, as that would be ignorant and a completely inaccurate statement. What is important to note is that we are going in the right direction. We currently have a much better scenario in 2015 than existed 30 years ago, and the related open dialogue that exists will likely allow for continued advancement and improvement related to this issue at an ever-increasing pace.